I look back on all of this. I'm involved in all of this nostalgia. And quite honestly, Group C was about to end and it went into Group A, and Group A had to make another move, and that's when the Mitsubishi thing came in.
Now going to Peter McKay with some more news on what's happening to the old vet, Kevin Bartlett.
Among the big movers in the production car ranks today is a highly credentialed driver who's done just about everything there is to do in motorsport, and another young fella who has the potential to reach the top. We're talking about Kevin Bartlett, the vastly experienced, ever-green, ever-keen, drive-anything dual gold star champ and Bathurst winner. And Brad Jones, younger by 20 years, restless, ambitious and blessed with lashings of talent. Fierce though their on-track rivalry may be, they're paid-up members of a mutual admiration society. The Sydney Warhorse and the young Albury Stallion are not light on respect for the other's ability.
Brad's a good lad. I've got a lot of respect for his ability, and he's got a great future. He's obviously have to look after himself and do the right deals all along the way, and get into the right cars. And getting with the right people is very important too, but he's certainly got a good future. I've got a great regard for his ability.
No, Kevin's been a big help to me through my career. He helped organise for me to go to Japan for the first time 2 years ago, and that's really kicked me along. And he's great to race with, door handle to door handle. He doesn't take any paint off, and he's a very fierce competitor.
The careers of Bartlett and Jones have often touched common ground. 2 years ago, when Bartlett was the lead driver for Mitsubishi Rally Art, he successfully lobbied hard for a place for Brad the lad in the two-car Bathurst squad.
I asked for Bradley to come with us when I was originally with Mitsubishi at Bathurst in, I think, 84, 85. And unfortunately, I didn't get him as a co-driver, but I watched him very, very closely. And I think Bradley's got a tremendous amount of potential if he's handled correctly by the right people.
Later in 85, Bartlett and his protege paired up in a factory Starion in the Fuji 500 in Japan. And when KB raced a touring car at Macau, Jones was there too, exuberantly punting a Colt Turbo around Asia's most daunting street circuit.
Macau's a very tricky spot. It's sort of like Bathurst, but about half as wide and twice as dangerous. But it's a very good atmosphere there, and it's an exciting place to compete.
And when Bartlett and Mitsubishi went separate ways at the end of 85, Jones quickly struck a deal with Rally Art Japan to tackle some local and international races in 86. At Bathurst, it came as no surprise to Kevin when Bradley stormed into Hardy's Heroes with a typically adventurous qualifying performance.
Australia's production car expert Brad Jones running with the full Mitsubishi Japanese works team this weekend, having returned from Japan after a very successful run, and he's got the Starion wound flat out. Qualifying engine in, super sticky Yokohama tyres, and we may get a big surprise here from the youngster from Albury.
Coming through BP corner there, very twitchy indeed. Now towards the top of the mountain through Toledo turn. Brad Jones just a bit sideways. Japanese co-driver for tomorrow's race.
Oh, and the car's in trouble. It's misfiring. So Brad Jones Starion in trouble across the top of the mountain at McPhillamy, and that puts an end to Brad Jones' hot time. This was the fastest car down Conrod yesterday with 269 kilometres an hour. It'll be the slowest today.
This season they've both concentrated on production car racing. KB in his Bridgestone Starion, BJ with his Perrier Starion. And of course, both have been doing their share of winning. Kevin here at Amaroo, Bradley in Adelaide. Today also marks the industrious Jones's long-awaited return to touring car racing. Out of mothballs comes his old Rally Art Starion, this time in Dulux colours and with new team manager George Shepherd now calling the shots.
Well, we hope it holds a lot. This is our first run for a long time. Dulux Auto Colour and Castrol and Citizen are helping us, and we're taking this weekend a little low-key, but we hope to be a real force soon.
Coincidentally, Bartlett is also giving his privately backed Starion a gallop this afternoon. Bigger things are in the wind though. Kevin believes he's close to clinching a deal to race an exotic Italian in 1988.
Trying to get a deal together at the moment to run a Maserati in 1988. The new bi-turbo coupe that's just landed in Australia is the car that we've nominated as being the car in 88, with all the new rule changes, new weights, different fuel, etc. Of course, assembling $1.25 million is exceptionally hard. We've got a couple of people on tap and a lot of people on side to do it, and of course the name Maserati conjures up a tremendous interest.
After more than a quarter of a century, Bartlett retains a passion, a remarkable enthusiasm for racing. He still enjoys racing, loves winning and despises losing, particularly to young upstarts like his buddy Brad.
Welcome back to Sydney's Amaroo Park Raceway. We're preparing for the Stallion Stable 2WS Production Car Series Heat 2, Round 3, 15 laps. Here's the grid. Bradley Jones, pole position in car number 2, the Starion. From position 2, car 9, Kevin Bartlett in the Bridgestone Starion. From 377, John Burke in the Toyota Supra. From 4-3, Peter Fitzgerald in the Starion. From 5-25, Roland Hill in the Commodore. From 6, Michael Preston in the Commodore. From position number 7, Melrose. From position 8, Greg Smith. From 9, Ian Green. From 11... let's not worry about them. They're off and racing already. And getting out very quickly on the outside was Kevin Bartlett. And Burke also hammered in there. And in fact, Bartlett will probably lead this to the top of Bitchapay.
Charge of the light brigade over the top. Bartlett just in front, but they're going every which way behind him. Burke, he's been almost pushed off on the inside in the Celica, shuffled back into 5th spot in that great charge as they go down into the loop. Who's that caught out wide? Looks like Roland Hill.
Yes, he made a great start, Roland Hill, but I tell you what, he's horsing all over the place at the moment.
Jones slotted into 2nd behind Bartlett. And after that, well, you can take your pick.
Coming down to Honda Corner for the first time. Big Rev, Kev Bartlett in the Bridgestone Starion will lead from Brad Jones in the Perrier Starion, and running 3rd is Peter Fitzgerald in the Yokohama Starion.
John Burke in 4th spot, done well to recover to hold on to 4th after that big shuffle up and over the hill the first time. Bartlett is in the right spot, out of trouble, running free up front ahead of Brad Jones and Peter Fitzgerald, and of course they're the top 3 in the series. John Burke, the big improver here this weekend in the Toyota Supra. Started campaigning the car last year, in fact, and it's taken a long time for it to get to this stage of development, but it's good to see it up and running with the best. Action's coming thick and fast in this race. Big field of 20s already been depleted by a couple. One off down in the lake corner somewhere in the grass.
It's Ian Green's Mazda RE7 Turbo.
But these are the guys that are surviving, at least to this point. 4th place getter on screen.
Getting pretty tight up around the front though. Bartlett just holding out Brad Jones at this stage with Fitzgerald. Probably 2 car lengths back behind them as they come out of Wonderlick Corner and work their way up the front straight here at Amaroo Park Raceway.
Mike Preston is in 5th spot on the track just behind John Burke. Then Greg East, who's done very well on the Commodore to come from 10th position on the grid to be up running 6th at this stage.
The turbo cars obviously have a bit of an advantage over the normally aspirated machines at this stage of proceedings, but later in the year, after August, the turbo cars will lose a little bit of their firepower when they move back to supergrade fuel. They're currently running avgas, which is higher octane rating, a little more stable. So perhaps this series, tight enough as it is, will close up even more.
Still got 12 laps to go in this race, Heat 2, Round 3 in the Stallion Stables 2WS Production Series here at Amaroo Park. And Kevin Bartlett jumped straight to the front and at this stage is looking pretty comfortable against Brad Jones.
A rebuilt engine in Kevin's car this weekend. It's done 3,600 racing kilometres. He's figured it was time to pull it down, take a look. Stuck some rings in it, some bearings, some new pistons. It's back in action.
Still a very, very tight line driver, Kevin Bartlett. Of course, Kevin Bartlett has been a regular on the Australian motorsporting scene. Whoa.
Not only on the Australian motorsporting scene. Macau Grand Prix in '69, and as you can see, winner previously of the James Hardy 1000 at Bathurst, second in the Australian touring car season with the compliments of Nissan. That's the way it shapes up for KB at the age of 46, still mixing it with the best.
And enjoying his motor racing. Obviously, Peter McKay's profile on both Brad Jones and Kevin Bartlett, we saw a little earlier. There's one fellow seen plenty of action so far. Going
Ken
back
Grinrod.
Yeah, Ken Grinrod.
We won't be grinning after that.
No, he's had an off coming down to Honda Corner. But great to see Kevin Bartlett as an old stager admiring the new young lion, Brad Jones, and the new young lion having a ton of admiration for the old stager.
They love racing against each other because they can go as hard as they like. They tend not to touch each other, and that's nice. That's the way you should be racing.
Peter Fitzgerald is the one man, I think, that's got the capability here to cause an upset if anybody's going to beat the top two, Bartlett or Jones, in this race.
Through goes Peter Fitzgerald. We go back to the Shell Ultra High replay. Ken Grinrod might have even got a touch there coming through the turn. Well, he's backed it straight over to the bank.
Ooh.
Titchy too.
That's Tony Gregg. I was going to say
Bowling a wide there.
he wasn't exactly sneaking through in the background, was he?
No, they probably pinged that for a little bit of evidence for later. Tell you what, the old wide world of replays will nail anyone. To the top of Bitchapave Hill, and Kevin Bartlett still leading from Brad Jones, and closing all the time appears to be Peter Fitzgerald in the Yokohama Starion, number 3. Fellow who knows his way around Amaroo Park fairly well. Been a regular campaigner here, not only in the production cars but also sports sedan and Porsche. In fact, quite a number of occasions in past years won the program here at Amaroo Park in both categories.
Had a big moment this morning in practice in the warm-up, slid off the track and very nearly inverted the Yokohama machine.
Bartlett and Jones running 1-2. The competition here is
cars head up Bitchapave Hill again. KB in the Bridgestone Starion, car number 9.
Mike, missing from action this afternoon, John Phillips, the fellow who won the opening round of this series in his Turbo Commodore. Officials took a fuel sample. John's car at Calder Raceway, and as a consequence, he has a 3 months holiday.
The scrutineers have been red hot, as they say, in all areas of CAMS racing this year.
Paying particular attention to fuel. Where turbo cars are involved, high octane equates to horsepower usually, and the CAMS people on the job to ensure nobody gets any advantage.
John Burke still running back behind the leaders somewhat, but an outstanding run so far from the Supra. Peter Fitzgerald in pursuit, of course, of Kevin Bartlett and Brad Jones. Just held up momentarily there. Ken Grinrod, who was in the pits and out again. And of course, John Burke, who is our 4th place driver, coming up to put a lap on Grinrod at the moment.
Burke having a bit of difficulty trying to get by Grinrod. Looks for an inside run as they get to the lake corner. Should have him this time without too much difficulty. He has. Got a lap at least on him, of course. Grinrod involved in that earlier spin out. News from the officials here, by the way, Mike, as we suspected earlier in the Toledo Tool sports sedan race, they miscounted the laps. They did, in fact, go 11 laps. So after the official presentation to Keith Carling as the winner, they've taken the trophy off him and given to Bob Tyndall, because Tyndall was in front, in fact, when they crossed at the end of 10 laps. Yep. So Tyndall's the winner, and there's now a big leader in the series.
Crazy, isn't it? how do you explain it? I mean, the race went to the checkered flag. I mean, everything else is really incidental. Terrific.
But this is the Stallion Stables 2WS production car race, and up front, this is the battle between Kevin Bartlett and Brad Jones.
And Bradley has a problem, and the problem is how to get past Kevin Bartlett, who would know more tricks, would pick up more tricks in a year than Bradley's probably accumulated in his racing career.
Kevin is just so smooth that he's been able to hold that buffer all the time over Brad Jones.
He's really come to grips with this type of racing. It's a specialist type of racing, and after the slick tyres and the highly sprung suspensions of touring cars, they're not easy just to step back into an underpowered production vehicle, but KB's done it beautifully. The dirt on the track as they go through the loop. And as I mentioned earlier, this circuit doesn't promote easy passing, and Bradley will have to work very, very hard to get past a car that obviously is not any slower than his. At this stage of the race, though, the tyres are probably going away a little bit, and there's more of an opportunity to capitalise on a mistake that a driver might make simply because the car's sliding around a lot more.
And 2/3 of the race distance gone, 5 laps remaining in this 15-lapper. The Stallion Stables and 2WS, and the leading pair flick past our camera on the start-finish line. And try as he might, Brad Jones still just can't wring that extra ounce out of the Perrier car that will allow him to get by Bartlett rather.
Production car record, 59.84 seconds, set by Mark Gibbs in a V8 Commodore last year. Nobody's managed to beat that this season, although Bradley went very close in that earlier preliminary this morning, 59.90. So this afternoon, with a bit of pressure on KB, or with Bradley pushing hard, that record may yet go.
Coming down on the inside this time with Kevin Bartlett making the move.
Oh yes.
That was a very decisive move on the inside to let Bartlett know that he had a little more grunt, maybe a few more brakes.
Kevin would have enjoyed that, but hated it.
Yes.
He's got so much respect for Brad. He would have admired the move because it was a very brave move, but equally he hates being beaten. We'll see a bit of action from KB here, I think. I think he would like to reverse the situation.
Bartlett closes up again behind Brad Jones as they exit Dunlop Loop, work their way down to Mazda Corner. He's poking the nose down there to let Brad know that he's still about and might perpetrate the same move next time they head to the right-hander at Lake Corner.
Well, this pair have dropped off Peter Fitzgerald by a long margin.
5.5 seconds to Fitzy.
So they've got it between them, Bartlett and Jones. Jones getting by in this spot exactly on the previous lap. Slipped through on the inside of Bartlett. And so after 12 laps, and with 3 remaining, Brad Jones is where he wants to be. All he's got to do is work out how to stall Bartlett off for 3 more laps. Won't be any easy task. Back behind them, all sorts of fun and frolics going on. Back at the rear of the field because they're strung out like Brown's cows. There have been people spearing off the track and on again. Greg East among them, Tony Gregg, Ken Grinrod. They've all had their turn at the fun and games, but they're not going to get any share of the glory because that belongs to the people up front, and that's Brad Jones and Kevin Bartlett coming up on a couple of tail-enders pretty quickly here too, which is the last thing they want in the closing stages of the race.
Will certainly make it interesting. They head down to the Lake Corner now.
Here are the slower cars.
Yeah, 3 there enjoying their own little race. And they're coming up very, very quickly upon them. They'll probably strike them halfway up the hill. Brad a little sideways coming out of there.
A little scorch up the BF.
Look at Bartlett very quickly down the inside, squeezing through there on the guardrail. He wants to be on the inside for the next corner, but Brad will get the run here on the slower car, or will he?
Oh, made a sandwich out of Bob Nelson in the Celica.
Now it all depends where Nelson goes. Look at Brad takes the high line through there. Bartlett comes out still sitting on his tail. That excellent racing there between the two of them.
Oh,
Bradley getting a little sideways up on the ribble strip there.
Bradley's living dangerously. Bob Nelson's wondering what the heck's going on. We're just coming up on a couple of the little Suzuki Swift GTIs, 1.3 litre cars that go very, very quick. Not quite a match for a Starion, but they're ahead of a Celica, which isn't so bad, a Celica being a 2 litre motor car.
So Bartlett moves in behind Brad Jones.
Isn't it great to watch these two very good drivers using the traffic brilliantly?
1 lap to go. Now can Bartlett pull off a pass on Brad Jones? Nissan Skyline for the final time. To Dunlop Loop. About even Steven through there. Been a great scrap between the two men who held front row for this race, pole sitter Brad Jones and Kevin Bartlett. Slower car to peg off before the end of the race. They'll probably catch him round about the final corner. Here's Bartlett making a move down the outside just to feint a pass, try and come back on the inside if he can. Oh, don't tell me Kev's going to pull one out of the books. Down the outside he comes. This is going to give Jones the run for the corner, but Bartlett will hang in tight. They come out of the last corner banging sideways, and it'll be Kevin Bartlett, the last corner, who gets up to beat Brad Jones. Favour repaid.
Great stuff.
Terrific stuff from Kevin Bartlett.
And you've got to have faith in the man you're dicing with to do that sort of thing.
You certainly do. That's classic motor racing from a classic driver, Kevin Bartlett, who gets up to win this afternoon's Stallion Stables 2WS Production Series, Heat 2, Round 3. And the old stager has done it again. Had a pass perpetrated by Brad Jones about 6 laps before the finish on the inside going to Lake Corner. And he's had a terrific return. Kevin Bartlett wins the Stallion Stables production car race this afternoon. Bradley Jones will pick up second. Peter Fitzgerald will take third. Positions on the Castrol Oils Ain't Oils scoreboard.